Porsche fans, and I can say this because I'm one of them, are very good at telling you why Ferraris are overrated. They're overpriced, they're unreliable,
oh, the mirror's just come off,
and the cost of any major service would bankrupt the average millennial. But if we're being honest, a lot of Porsche fans grew up loving Ferrari. We just matured into sensible people.
But these days, new Porsche prices are getting ridiculous.
That doesn't make sense.
Maybe not as ridiculous as Ferrari, but still.
If you care about value, some of us are realizing that the first decade of the 2000s produced some of the best driver's cars ever made.
That's why I own a 996 911 and a C6 Z06 Corvette. The cars Ferrari was making at that time were actually reasonably reliable, and the engine didn't need to come out for every service.
And if we're still being honest, a lot of us would jump at the chance to own a nice Ferrari if we thought we could actually afford it. In the same way that Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton jumped at the chance to join Ferrari's F1 team, even though it's been a long time since they won a title.
In the arms of the angel.
There is just something about a Ferrari.
These days, a base 911 starts at $135,000, and for that you get a very capable car that makes a little less than 400 horsepower. For about the same price, you could get a 2007 Ferrari F430 with a screaming V8 and another 100 horsepower.
Side note, 2007 was the last year that Ferrari won a Formula One championship. So the F430 looks like a bit of a bargain, but can it actually hold up to the kind of abuse the Porsche drivers I know regularly subject their cars to? We have a customer who decided to find out.
Andy bought this car with the intention of driving it hard, which sets him apart from the stereotypical cars and coffee Ferrari owner.
He owns a company called RS Experience, and he organizes road rallies. The type of event that typically involves hundreds of spirited miles in the mountains. That type of driving puts cars to the test in terms of performance and reliability.
We just got back from the Rennsport Dragon Rally, which is a Porsche event centered around the tail of the Dragon and surrounding roads. Some of the faster run groups are pushing their cars the way you might at a track day, and the stress on the car is similar, if not worse, because they're closely following the car ahead for long stretches. We were providing support at the event, and these Porsches were not immune to problems.
I was just talking about how reliable the 718 Spider is, and at the event, one of them burst a coolant line and had to be towed all the way to our shop. And Basil, my 996, decided to throw a check engine light and start coughing puffs of smoke.
I can tell you it's not fun to run into a mechanical issue when you're miles from civilization with no cell phone service.
So if Porsche, with its reputation for reliability, can struggle under these conditions, is a 20-year-old Ferrari up to the task?
Andy got bit by the Ferrari bug after following a YouTube channel called Normal Guy Supercar, which focuses on 360 Modenas, F430s, and 458s. To Andy, the 360 seemed a little too old, and prices on the 458s have skyrocketed lately, so the F430 was the sweet spot. This one is a Spider, which is what he was looking for, and has the F1 sequential transmission, which he wasn't necessarily excited about. But the gated manual cars command a huge premium.
This car was owned by a collector in Florida who decided he wanted to free up a spot for something else. He had taken it to the dealership for service, but he hadn't elected to do all the items on their list.
With the kind of driving he was intending to do, Andy didn't want to take any chances. So he had it delivered directly to us, and our master tech Chance got to work with his apprentice, Shelby. The first order of business was brake pads. Andy did his research on the forums, and for street driving, the Girodisc GP10 came recommended. Girodisc markets these as a street pad that's capable of occasional track use. pad choice is tricky for this kind of application. Dedicated track pads don't really work until they're in their temperature window, and they can chew up rotors when they're cold. So I'm interested to hear back about how these perform in real-world driving conditions. Andy wasn't thrilled with the stance of the car. Ferraris generally come from the showroom with big gaps from the tire to the fender, so we're going to lower this car on the factory coilovers. That will result in the wheels looking tucked under the fenders, so these wheel spacers will provide an OEM plus look. This car features an integrated oil and water pump, which is notorious for leaking. Rather than replace it, Andy asked to reseal it with new washers and gaskets as he'd seen on the Normal Guy Supercar channel. Ferrari has always designed and built their engines in-house, and this pump is really interesting to see disassembled. One of the challenges of Ferrari ownership is parts availability, and that's due to volume. They built less than 7,000 cars in 2007 compared to 98,000 for Porsche and 1.2 million for BMW. We're used to Porsche parts being available locally, even for older cars, but many of the parts we needed for this job took weeks to arrive from Italy. Even the dealership parts department seemed a little frustrated with how slow the team in Maranello was to get the parts shipped.
I can picture Giuseppe at the factory parts warehouse, sipping an espresso and smoking a cigarette at 10 a.m. when the fax for our order came in.
The Americans can wait. Maybe I'll get to it next week.
Mi scusi.
Chance replaced the valve cover gaskets and the timing cover gasket along with the spark plugs. He made a custom Ferrari timing cover bolt holder that we have available for sale on our website. Ferrari, I am kidding. Please do not sue us. With the ride height set, we dialed in a slightly aggressive street alignment. Modern supercars have lots of underbody aero panels, and that's part of why Ferrari service costs extra. After we were done with maintenance, the car went out for an updated stereo as well as paint correction and paint protection film. It came back with the paint practically glowing. After admiring it in the parking lot for an hour or two, we took it for a test drive.
Okay. Driven one before. That one is getting a gated manual conversion.
Hallelujah.
Which is so cool because I think it costs about $15,000 to do that. Seems to increase the value of the car by more than that. That would be like if spending $10,000 to renovate your kitchen made your house $20,000 more valuable.
Doesn't it?
Maybe, I don't know. This thing's badass.
Worth it.
I think maybe I would prefer a manual, like, if I'm being honest, but I'd be really curious to be driving it hard up in the mountains or on the racetrack and kind of see how it does. For $140,000, the closest you can get to this in the Porsche world isn't a new base 911. I think it's a 718 Spider.
That car is down about 70 horsepower compared to the F430, but weighs around 300 pounds less. In my mind, the Ferrari easily wins in terms of style and presence, but the Spider will outperform it. If you were really cross-shopping this car against a modern Porsche, you'd probably be looking at a Spyder RS with its more extreme styling and 500 horsepower.
I've driven a Spyder RS on track and it is a magnificent car, but I don't think you can touch one for less than $200,000.
I talked to Andy the other day and he still hasn't had the chance to really test the F430 in the mountains because there was a problem getting the title signed over from the dealer.
He bought the Ferrari convinced that it was a good idea, but now that the initial excitement has worn off, he's not as confident. When you go up on these remote mountain roads, there is no cell service. A tow truck from AAA is half a day away. I love the idea of taking an old Ferrari on one of these events, and so does Andy. But he told me he's already thinking of selling the car and buying a Porsche Spyder RS.